Hey everybody, it is a real honor and a pleasure to welcome acclaimed television and film actress, as well as prolific writer, author, and activist, the one and only Heather Thomas, joining us here from her lovely home on the West Coast. Heather, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks.
We were just talking before we went on, everybody, about how everything is so color coordinated in her house. The walls, her beautiful hair, the gorgeous painting behind her. I love the set decoration.
I've got a dog that matches over there, but I
You
can't.
do? The dog matches?
It's too big.
What kind of dog?
He's a golden retriever, but he's like
beautiful.
one of those toasted marshmallow golden.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of the same. So.
And how old is he?
He's 7.
7. What's his name?
Chance.
A really good nature.
They were all my daughter's dogs.
Oh, really?
All
they
my
ended up
dogs were my daughter's dogs. And it's like, I'll feed them, I'll walk them every day, and they all become mine.
And they all become, they fall in
eventually become moms.
Isn't that? Well, you know, before we talk about your fabulous career and everything else, you love animals, you love nature. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I am very in touch with it. We're here on the East Coast in the New York area, as I was mentioning, and you were born in Greenwich, Connecticut. And then, of course, the family moved out west. So originally an East Coast person. But the ocean for me, I grew up near the ocean, and we're just a couple of blocks here on the coast from the ocean. Swimming, surfing, boogie boarding, sailing it. There's something that happens to me when I'm on and near the sand and the ocean. How about you, Heather?
I would feel claustrophobic if I didn't have an ocean on one edge of my. I have a big field, of energy, and the ocean represents infinite possibilities to me, and I grew up, I was a beach rat, and
yes.
I grew up just with a bunch of kids on the water, and parents weren't as worried in those days about all sorts of silly stuff. And we went after school, we ditched school to go surf or body surf. And so I know the coastline here very well.
You know, right? Remember when the days where you could go outside and just play and do your thing, and the parents didn't have to worry. They would call you in around dinner time. Heather, time to come in for dinner. Or in my case, it was Jimmy back then. Jimmy, come on, time for dinner. And everything was great. Boy, has the world changed, huh? Greatly.
Well, I think that the social media gave birth to a lot of molestation and all sorts of weird perversions, but I think our parents just really trusted us more.
You know, I think they did.
We were able to make mistakes. Either that or my parents just didn't give a hoot. They were real self-absorbed in the 70s. And I just remember, you had to be home when the street lights came on.
Exactly right.
They'd serve dinner.
Exactly.
No, it was earlier in the summer, but not really.
Would you say you had a good childhood? Did you enjoy the early years? And did you come from a family of arts people, entertainers? Where did that all come from?
No, everybody was an intellectual at my house. My older sister is a genius. And so she and my dad would be talking about quantum theory or something, and I'd be past the peas. So I became I was drawn to story, which is writing and acting and producing and all that. So that's the direction I went. But no, my mom was a teacher. She was a Martha Graham dancer for a while. And but she was a teacher and a special ed teacher.
That's right. Yes. And at Santa Monica, Malibu Unified School District, right?
Yes. You do your homework.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And Gladdy, Lou Ritter.
Want to see a picture?
Yeah, I would love to. Oh, look at that.
Can you see her on that? Wait, let me see. Do you see the cheerleader? She was a band leader and then a cheerleader at Penn State.
Beautiful, beautiful, right? Beautiful. And a real inspiration for you over the years, would you say, Heather?
Yeah. Your parents, you can't help but imprint on them. So the
Yes.
good and the bad, like I won't wear white shoes after Labor Day, the weird things too.
Remember all that? Right. Yes. Yep.
You only wear brown in the fall. There were the weird picadillos of my mom. And then my mom was really goofy and eclectic in the people she collected and in her interests. So I am too.
A lot of those
That
things
rubbed off on me.
Yeah. And a lot of those traditions and those theories and even some of the myths get passed down. I still remember, I don't know if you were told this, but we were always told, be sure when you leave the house, always have that, clean underwear on in case you're in an accident. I think they still say that.
They think we were all going to get it. That's what I want to know.
Believe me, if my mother could
clean underwear on,
if my mother could get away with giving us, my sister and I, Easter baskets and leaving them by the door, she still would. And that's a beautiful thing.
I still do.
You still do? I love it.
I send them to my grandchildren, but I have my youngest daughter's in her 20s, and I still leave her an Easter basket.
That's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Is she in the industry too, or did she find a different career path?
She's actually in the industry. She's a hustler. Yeah, she went to SC Film School. I went to UCLA Film School because back in the Mesozoic age, USC didn't have much of a film school when I was in college. But no, she went to SC Film School, and I still leave her Easter baskets.
You're a beautiful person and a beautiful.
I remember one time I was sneaking up to her door. You know how you leave your kids' Easter baskets in the dark. You're like trying to be the tooth fairy. And one time I made too much of a crinkle, and she sat up in bed, and I went like this because I knew I was a silhouette trying to be a rabbit.
Trying to
that, and then I backed away.
That is cool. I love that.
Famous attempt.
That's cool.
Goofy.
Great memories, great memories. I was always the first one up well before the family, Christmas Eve, trying to peek at the packages and trying to, I'd wake up my sister, and my parents were still sleeping, and we'd be looking at everything, and we couldn't necessarily tear anything open. We could go into the stocking and maybe have a little of the cookies or something. But I guess, from what I've been told, I had a fascination when I was a kid with the wrapping paper. I just loved the wrapping paper, and I would stare at the beautiful wrapping paper, but I would gingerly just rip a little of the edge of the present just to see if I can see what was inside and then fold it back. They knew what we were doing. They always knew.
They knew everything.
So many of the toys came out of that Sears Wish Book too. That remember circling all the toys of the Sears Wish Book, which was a big, big thing at that time. You
were well off then. I collected one.
The Sears Wish Book. You have graced our presence over the many years with your incredible acting prowess, your wonderful writing, and your interesting and fascinating and beautiful takes on life. You have been on so many classic television shows and movies, commercials, and so much more over the years. It's really extraordinary when taking a look at the body of work, and of course modeling, as well as the covers of many magazines. You've TV Guide, of course, being on the cover of TV Guide, a fabulous shot there. But you've had an opportunity to work with so many incredible people as well. And your talent, as well as your inner and outer beauty, have always shined. And that's why people have gravitated to you, have followed you over the years, and appreciate your work. And I encourage people to go back and take a look at the body of work, because she has made her mark really, even as early as we had Ryan Cassidy on, David's brother, who's a wonderful guy. And you worked with David Cassidy. And this was Man Undercover. This goes back to the late 70s. What was it like working with David?
He was delightful. He was delightful. He was very generous, very sweet. It was one of my first acting jobs. He could sense that and talk me through it. But he was great. He was a really nice guy.
I know, and we lost him too soon. Absolutely. He was really a terrific guy. People, when they take a look at your body of work before we delve further in, what would you say early on for you, Heather, was a major break, a first door opening opportunity early on that sort of got the ball rolling for you? Do you remember a time or two where something happened, all the moons lined up perfectly, and people started noticing your wonderful talent and started hiring you and bringing you in? Do you remember those moments?
Well, my first job I got when I was like 14. I was in junior high, maybe I was 13, but these producers came to the school and they said, we want the smart kids with a big mouth. And so people pointed at me and I was always getting in trouble for mouthing off. I got,
you know what it was? It was those initial very first, even though it was early when you left the East Coast, you still had a little East Coast spunk in you.
I was kind of mouthy and it got me in trouble a lot, but I thought I brought up good points. Anyway, so I did that for a while and we got to write that show. It was called Talking with a Giant. And so I did that in junior high for NBC. And then
you interviewed celebrities at that time. Yeah.
Celebrities, and they heavily censored us, believe me. And
back then, yeah,
we supposedly wrote it, but it was censored. And then I was very comfortable. I found I was very comfortable in front of the camera by doing that show. And then I was in theater and I entered UCLA as a theater major, but always intending to switch over to film because you couldn't be a film major in those days until you were a junior.
Mm-hmm.
They only took 14 people. I was really lucky I got in. And because it was primarily like a master's program.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, just before I switched over, you had to audition. Everybody in the theater department, you had to audition. And if you didn't make the show, you served in some form of crew position, working lights or pulling furniture, anything, And so I had to audition for this. And I was a dancer in the Boom Boom Room by Dave Rabe. And I had a solo and I got an agent from that.
That's cool.
I started acting and my acting jobs paid for my film stuff. Because, in those days you had to buy this film stock. The school didn't give it to you and it was very expensive. And it paid for me to rent, cameras and things like that.
That's great. So you were already ahead of the game. You started to develop an understanding and appreciation for the industry. When you were that early age, were you watching what was going on around you? Were you watching the producers, the directors, the camera people, seeing how it was all?
I also took those positions, in film school. So I knew what the camera was looking for and how to work a proscenium and how to try and convey what you needed to convey to make the story work within a certain parameters. And so it kind of gave you like markers where to go using a camera.
Really cool. I tell you, the storyline is truly amazing because after Talking with a Giant. And here you are again, 14 years old, host of a series interviewing celebrities on the NBC television network, a wonderful opportunity. And then you started acting in some other television roles, and you appeared in a series. And I do love what you said. It was canceled after the third commercial. I love that witty line. But it was Co-ed Fever with some other, great people that were a part of that as well.
Yeah, it was on the whole season.
Yeah.
It was dumb as heck.
There's the gang there.
Big eyes. Make those big eyes.
Right? Exactly. There was also this too, which a lot of people remember and have talked about, Zapped. That was another. How did that opportunity come your way?
Just before Fall Guy, yeah.
Yes, you did. Which, of course, people remember you were in the role of Jody Banks in The Fall Guy, working with Lee Majors for such a long time. Another great guy. So many fantastic things. Also, Kiss of the Cobra as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was in Sri Lanka. That was so much fun.
So, yeah, it was filmed in Sri Lanka. And what was that experience like, being there, filming that there?
It was wonderful, because when you're on location on a movie, it's very different than checking into a fancy hotel and going, looking at wherever the tourist guide tells you to look. You got to see how people lived, how they cooked. Elka Summer was wonderful in that movie. And she would say, let's go see what their house looks like. And we basically asked people if we could go look at their house and how they lived. And so I really got to explore the high country, like Nurarelia and Anaharadpura. We went there. We went into the high forest, though, of Nurarelia, that area where Kandy is. And it was fun, because I was there for 3 months, so you really get to immerse yourself in the culture. I used to get up in the morning and go get some buffalo curd from the market and get treacle on it and walk along. I watched the elephants in the morning. At one point, I was staying with this Buddhist monk at a temple, and it was fun.
And just knowing and following the career, this illustrious career of yours, you've always been very adventurous and curious and passionate about life and how things work and nature. Where do you think that wide-eyed and curious Heather, where does that come from? What inspires you inside?
There's so much to know. I feel like I know so little. It's learning is like, it's an impetus for me to want to go and explore everything. Whether it's the natural world or where someone's attitude comes from, I'm always curious.
You must love psychology too, figuring things out, figuring people out, like you say.
Yeah, but I don't like to pigeonhole. That psychology tends to cause you to pigeonhole, saying, "Oh, I've got 5 characteristics, and so that's got to be of that."
Exactly.
People are paradox. There's good and bad. There's conflicting, characteristics within everybody.
And we're all morphing and changing and growing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Change.
That's right. Exactly.
Everything changes.
If anybody turns on their television, and whether you'll take a look at some of the channels like, Antenna TV and MeTV and the rest, you are bound to see Heather Thomas in this, that, and the other thing, because, again, she's been in so many series, even BJ and the Bear, Greg Evigan and company. What was it like having the opportunity to work with Greg and being...
Greg was wonderful. I loved him and his manager. He was wonderful. I didn't work with the monkeys so much.
Yes, right.
I worked with the Any Which Way But Loose Orangutan, but I never got to work with Bear.
You also had an opportunity to work with Tony Danza, who's still out doing his thing, singing and dancing too, doing his shows.
He really can tap dance. He can
Yes,
tap.
absolutely. A New York kid through and through. The Love Boat, and a couple of times on the Love Boat. Was that fun being on the Love Boat? You were away for, was it like 10 days? Do you go away?
We didn't actually stay on the boat, but both of us, it was kind of funny when we both got that script and we accepted it because it was a trip to Japan.
Yeah.
And we stayed in Kyoto and Tokyo. How bad can it be, right?
Not bad, right?
So Kyoto was magical and Tokyo is a dynamic major city of the world. So we took the part. We each took the part. We didn't look to see who we played. And I open it and I play this gigantic racist who hates Japanese people. And then Tony found out he had to play like he was Japanese. He was half Japanese. So we got there and we said, okay, we're going to be playing these horrible people. But anyway, it was fun. It worked out. Rita Moreno was on that trip.
Oh, Rita Moreno.
John Ritter, and I'm still friends with Nancy Ritter.
Oh, yeah.
Jean Marsh. Who else? There was, what's his name from Carol Burnett?
His son is a great friend of mine, Harvey Korman.
Harvey Korman was on it.
Oh, yes, Harvey Korman, yeah.
It was the funniest trip in the world. I remember we went to a female impersonator show in Tokyo. It was a big drag show. And I said, "You are such a bust," to Rita Moreno. And sure enough, halfway through the show, about 10 guys came out dressed like her and went, "I'm going like that, would kill your mother," And it was just so, would kill your brother. Anyway,
yeah.
But Marita's like, God, every time. Or Ted Knight would just have some crack, or Harvey Korman had borrowed Tim
Conway's
old man wig.
Oh, the old man wig, yes.
And a deer stole it at the deer park, and I just remember these makeup artists and hairdressers running wildly after this deer. It was even, but it was fun.
I can imagine. What a group to have.
We went to eat Kobe beef. We went to. I remember Tony Danza and his son, my boyfriend, and I all went to Monkey Mountain, where you take this little trip down a river from Kyoto in a little tiny boat, and then you climb this hill to the top of this place. I knew it was called Monkey Mountain, and we saw like one monkey on the way up. But then they go, "Here, feed them," and 5 million monkeys come out of nowhere and mug you. It was difficult.
Do you? It sounds like you, as much as you've done drama as well, you do like comedy too, don't you?
Yeah, why not?
Right.
Mm-hmm. I did a Rodney Dangerfield special. I love sitcoms. I did a couple sitcoms. I did a couple of I did a Tim Burton special where I played a two-headed person with Jim Brown. I remember that.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
And there's some spoofy kind of campy things I've done over the years too.
I miss the Rodney Dangerfields and the Phyllis Dillers and the Don Rickles and all of them, and those Dean Martin roasts.
I knew Rodney and Phyllis. Phyllis was up the street. She used to come over. I used to have these big parties.
Oh my God.
Before Christmas, like the first Friday of December. It was the ladies' luncheon party. And I'd invite all the ladies that I knew in Los Angeles, and we had so much fun. We had dancers, we had a wig room, we had about 16 fortune tellers, and then we had
wow.
food.
Holy cow.
And a candy guy who made fantastic candy animals,
Wow.
all sorts of stuff. The wig room was always funny.
What was that like? Just go
Well,
in and all try the different wigs?
like 1,000 different wigs. Trying them on. A lot of women went home in their wig, saying, "I'm going to surprise my boyfriend."
Yeah. Wow. Phyllis Diller and Rodney Dangerfield, like you said, what was it like, being a part of that special and working with him?
I had the same manager as Rodney. I remember my first Thanksgiving, I was making all the food and I cut myself really bad and some blood got on the stuffing I was about to put in the oven, like that extra pan of stuffing you make. Because there were so many people, I couldn't just give them the stuff that I had put inside the turkey. And he saw me and I was like starting to cry. I was by myself in the kitchen. He came over and he stirred up the stuff and he goes, "They're all drunk." It was so fun. So I couldn't serve it.
Really fantastic, funny, just rich life experiences you've had while you were working your tail off in television and film for all of our enjoyment. I think that's quite amazing, Heather. And then, of course, Lee Majors and company and The Fall Guy. How did that opportunity come your way? Do you remember when that phone call came and said, "Hey, there's this show we've got on ABC and we want you to be a part of this"?
Oh, well, I tried out like everybody else and got part. That's basically what happened.
Yeah. And the experience of working with Lee and everybody, what was that like? Very popular series.
He was great. He was very generous and fun. The set was closed, so it was a very comfortable place to be. There weren't a million people coming to your set. It was fun. We blew stuff up. We jumped over stuff.
Did, right? Fun. Yeah.
It's like, why are we gonna blow up today?
Yeah. People remember that series with fondness too, and you all seem to just play off each other so well, which is always a blessing when that happens as well. And again, that series is in the annals of history. Were the shoot days long, and there was a real grind, physicality?
Yeah, but I was in my 20s. I didn't care. Yeah, my call was always 5 a.m. and we did 14-hour days. I was happy to be making the money, believe me.
Yeah, you're a pro. Yeah, you're a pro. Whatever needed to be done.
Happy to be there.
Let's get it done. You and I were chatting before we went on about William Shatner, and we were talking about some people that I know that know William, and you do, of course. And you said something funny. You do have a quick wit, which I love. I think everybody knows. There isn't anyone who doesn't know William Shatner. And I said that Shatner's probably, well, not just here in America on Earth does everybody know Shatner, but he was in that that spaceship that took him up into the rocket that took him out to outer space. Shatner will probably be the first person to inhabit Mars if he has the chance. I don't doubt. You had an opportunity to work with him in the iconic series T.J. Hooker. What was that experience like in working with William Shatner? And you were amazing in that role.
Again, when you work with these seasoned guys that have had a couple of series under their belt, they're always the most generous, the most tolerant, the most patient people on the set. So they're wonderful. He was wonderful.
It's amazing too. When you're on all these series, the exposure that comes, obviously, and fans and people just loving what you're doing. Then the network calls and says, we have this series on Saturday mornings. We bring in all the stars and all the celebrities, and you're going to be jumping and twisting and pulling and getting wet and everything with a show like Battle of the Network Stars. And everybody who was anybody of the time in the 70s ended up on that show. Was that a kick to be on that?
Oh yeah, it was fun. It made you neurotic though.
Did it?
I get really competitive. So
That's you and Heather Locklear in that shot there. Yeah.
yeah, she was sweetie.
So when you have a task like that, you want to win and you're competitive. So you want to have Heather on your team because she's going to
Bill
give a
Shatner was always the team captain, so he took it very seriously too.
right. Exactly. God bless him too. I mean, he's been doing this for such a long time and he's still out there. He still goes to those conventions and he's still in interviews.
Marvelous human being. Marvelous human being. The best import from Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You've had an opportunity to be in so many commercials and on magazine covers and just, really a beautiful soul inside and out. You wrote a book as well. Congratulations. You're a prolific writer, but you wrote a book and here it is. Tell us about the book. It is, for everybody watching, available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, where books are sold. You can get it. It's called Trophies, and this is a beautiful work of art from Heather Thomas. Tell us about the book, and congratulations on that.
Well, I married a legendary entertainment attorney, Skip Brittenham. And when I did, every charity in town scouts out young wives and they want them on their board, so I got recruited. I said yes too many times, but but it's always the same bunch of broads in these things, but
yeah.
and it changes. There's hierarchies and who's in fashion now and women from the West Side versus downtown, there's all these different contingencies, but basically you kind of get to know all the players. And I was plunged into the world of trophy wives. I couldn't not write about it. It was so funny.
And what was that writing process like? How long did it take for you to come up with the idea, put it all together, and then be comfortable with the book to where you said,
anything that I write, it just kind of wrote itself, and I structured it all out ahead of time, but the characters just pop in your head. What's amazing is people like to write them off. Oh, that's his arm candy. That's his trophy wife. These women control. There isn't a school, a museum, a political party, a disease fought, an art museum. None of these things happen without 800 little trophy wives putting it up and raising the money and making it happen. I always say, if you want to start something, go grab a trophy wife, be their cause du jour.
You have been very, very gracious and very community centered and people focused, because you have several different things that you are involved in that really mean a lot to you, to your heart and soul. Tell us about some of the organizations that you've been involved in, some you've even founded and co-founded, that do great work today. And thank you for being such a committed person who really understands the human condition, Heather.
Oh, everybody's like that in this town. Los Angeles is one of the most generous places you'll ever find. I think the thing that I was concentrating on a lot this year, I spent 25 years on the board of the Rape Foundation, which we created the international model for victims of child abuse. We made public service announcements. We had programs within the schools. We changed law. We have the rape treatment center where we can convict someone on a fingernail mark thanks to colposcopes that take very close photographs. We train police, we train coaches, we train men, we train teachers, and we did a lot of amazing work. They did SDNY, was inspired by the Rape Foundation. All that was the basically the creation of Gail Barbanel, who was a social worker and thought that rape victims and sexual assault victims were treated poorly. And a lot of times they were left alone in the waiting rooms of emergency wards for hours and hours while the evidence deteriorated. Sometimes they'd be left waiting 12, 13 hours. But anyway, so we wanted to unstigmatize rape. And then that's one that's near and dear to my heart. Then I lobbied for the NRDC with Congress. I got to know a lot of senators and Congress people and aides that became senators. And I learned how politics works. Right now, I still hold LA Cafe. I did for many years, and I still do that, where we never say, there's never one way to work on issues. There's a million different ways. So it's a place where baby grassroots groups can present for foundations and other activists, and we roll them together and help them, and sort of a den mother for that. And then the other thing I do is Don't Get Purged, which you can find on don'tgetpurged.org.
We have it right here. Yeah.
Wrongful purging that goes on voter rolls.
Yeah. Tell us about that. Yeah.
But there are some states illegally purged just before an election. You're not supposed to be purged within 90 days of an election. They were voter roll purging benefits one party more than another, but it's for anybody in any party to check and see that you're still on your state voter roll. So you don't wait 8 hours in line and find out, oh, I've been purged and your vote doesn't count. I think everybody's vote should count.
So that has been really near and dear to your heart. We've been showing the website right there.
Yeah. And I just wanted everybody to be able to have their voice heard and to have their voter rights.
You really do. You have a voice. And, a lot of people, when they're doing something that has a level of success to it, fame, what have you, that comes, they do that and then move on. But like I was saying earlier, you seem to just be so passionate and so curious and so wanting to make a mark, leave the room better than you found it, to inspire and lift others up. You've worked very, very hard to get where you are and to maintain where you are, and well-earned, and all the accolades should come your way. But at the same time, you've been cognizant of those around us who need to be lifted, who need support, maybe guidance. And I think it's a beautiful thing. That's something that is in your heart, Heather.
No, I just want to be useful.
Don't you love the way she summed that up, everybody? I did the Gettysburg Address, and she says, I just want to be useful. I love that. That's what's great about you. You're a straight shooter. You're the real deal. You're authentic. There's no airs about you. And I think that's why, again, people gravitate to you. They love to work with you. And it's because you tell it like it is. And it's great. It's refreshing, actually, to have that, because that's not always, the case with people. Something else, too, that fascinated me, the Amazon Conservation Team. Tell us about that.
Well, that's Mark Plotkin. He's the world's leading ethnobotanist. He's a genius professor out of Harvard, and he's a fellow at the Smithsonian. And he's literally an ethnobotanist, which is how plants and human beings interact. And he focused on the cultures of the indigenous people in rainforests around the world as a way to conserve and not lose their knowledge, because that's where we get all our pharmaceuticals. That's where we get all our cures. All our medicine comes from nature. It's not magically synthesized. There's always a basis. Like there's the tree that makes the aspirin, et cetera, et cetera. And so in order to conserve the knowledge, most of this knowledge came from shamans. And so he works with the shamans, organizing curation of that knowledge, but also there's nobody that protects the environment better than indigenous people. And so he unionized the shamans of Colombia, and he gave a whole bunch of chiefs and shamans all these GPSs, and they mapped out 3 million miles of rainforest and preserved their homelands. It's really fun because I got to meet so many of these shamans from South America, especially Colombia, and it's a very interesting approach to conservation. There's a million ways to get to the top of a mountain, and I like to see all the different, groups that contribute towards one goal. There's not one way to do anything. Well, maybe in math, but
Right.
math and driving. Okay, I'm very picky about driving, but other than that, there's lots of different ways to attain goals.
We've had some wonderful celebrity guests who've been on from, of course, the LA area in recent days. And we've been talking a lot about what's happened recently in Los Angeles. How are you? How are your friends and family? A lot of people affected by the recent devastating fires that had such a great impact in the LA area. How are things for you and those you know and love?
Again, just trying to be useful. There's so many wonderful organizations where you can support the people of Altadena or the people that lost their homes in the Palisades. I probably know 50 people that lost their everything. And I watched that fire all day long because in LA, if the wind blows and it's dry, you start scanning the horizon. And it erased like half my childhood in the Palisades. And Altadena got hit so hard, they didn't have any time to get out, all their stuff. And it's been amazing to see how the city has rallied around these people and given to them, where you would see someone that doesn't have that much, but still willing to share their elbow grease, or here, you have my pair of shoes. I've got to, it's a horrific thing. It was a horror to watch, and it gives you a lot of respect. And yes, global warming is real. And it was 100-mile-an-hour winds. I got knocked down twice on my balcony. We were ridiculously lucky. It did not jump to us, but my daughters, it came within 25 feet of one of their homes. And my other daughter in Rustic Canyon, it came way too close for comfort, within a block. And it was just randomly grabbing houses in the canyons, the spot fires from flying embers. And it was just random that you almost have survivor guilt, because it was so random the way it moved. The wind was so huge. It was really a firestorm. And I've been through fires since I was a kid. I remember a huge one in the 70s in Malibu and another one in the 90s. And the Topanga fire was huge. It moved faster than I was used to how fires work. And because I've evacuated friends and all up and down the coast from these fires. And this was the first time I thought, oh my goodness, it might get me, you know. And it was funny what you take when you evacuate.
Right.
Photo albums.
Photo albums. Yeah.
Photo albums, photos. I just kept grabbing photos. We have some pretty good art left it. So
yeah.
The photos.
I think Melissa Rivers said that, her house was destroyed and she grabbed photos and photos of her mother and father. She grabbed the Emmy, I think a daytime Emmy that Joan Rivers had won. And basically that's what she has and got out of there. But
I got photos of dogs.
Yes, right. It's
my chickens weren't in the way. They were closer to the street where the fire trucks were.
So are you on, is it like a farm setting? Are there lots of different animals there? It sounds very comfortable where you are.
Chickens and dogs.
You got the chickens and the dogs, right?
I wanted these black-nosed Swiss sheep. They were so cute, but no, right now it's just chickens and dogs.
You mentioned Topanga. I love whenever I'm out in the LA area on a television shoot for my TV work, taking the car and going up towards that area and that beautiful Topanga Canyon overlook, just stopping there and all of these wild flowers that are there. And it's just the breeze, the cool breeze coming off the mountains. It really is a beautiful spot, isn't it?
Canyons in Malibu are like that. It's beautiful. Topanga, I couldn't believe how hard Topanga Beach was hit. The coastline was hit so hard.
I couldn't, and I was just there not that long ago and did that whole through the canyon and right to Malibu, and it was the piers there. It's beautiful. It really is. In Santa Monica.
It's saved. Old Topanga's still there.
It was getting close to Santa Monica too. It was sort of edging in that direction, but fortunately it didn't.
It was on the edge of Chautauqua.
Yes.
Like in people's backyards. And then it was across the canyon. I could see it. There was even a fire on Corsica, which is very close to me. It's straight across. And then it never traveled up Santa Monica Canyon, but it jumped Sunset. It was all over Rustic. It was like a war zone.
God bless everybody, and everybody come together and help. I know our
great appreciation for first responders.
Oh, can never say enough about them. Absolutely.
I donated was to firemen.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Absolutely. That's beautiful, Heather, that you have done that. I know our viewers, because they always ask when they see something that piques their interest, they're going to ask about that beautiful painting behind you that's hanging on. That looks, take a look at this, folks. Tell us what it is.
Sassy. It's just an old California Romantica painting. My husband, I think he bought it in a lot at an auction of some maybe arts and crafts things or something. And she came with the lot, and he didn't hang her up anywhere, in his area of the house. So I said, mine. I love it.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I want to remind folks too, in terms of the extraordinary career and the decades of incredible work on television and radio. We mentioned television and film, and Zapped, Cyclone, Kiss of the Cobra. We mentioned she was in Red-Blooded American Girl. You may remember some of these too. Hidden Obsession.
Oh yeah, that was Christopher Plummer.
Right.
Yeah. Against
the Law, My Giant. Girl Trash All Night Long as Nadine. Also, California Fever. The Misadventures of Sheriff Lobo. I remember that.
Girl Trash All Night Long. That was so much fun.
And
so fun.
And that was in 2014, right? You were Nadine Robeson.
I played the mother of these girls, these juvenile delinquent girls. It was great.
That's fantastic.
Broke into song. It was pre La La Land. So there was that big shot where I was yelling at them and my yelling becomes wah, 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 wah. And they get out of the car and run through the freeway. They did a big wide shot like that, but really talented young women.
Do you like to sing, Heather?
I sound horrible when I sing. Some people think I can sing. I don't.
Or play an instrument?
I play guitar.
You do play guitar.
And a little harmonica.
And a little harmonica. So when you're not doing your thing, what are some things that you like to do to unplug, recharge, reboot? Do you enjoy meditation, yoga, reading? You mentioned the ocean.
Or I can go into trance if I need to just quiet myself. But most of the time, I find physical exercise is a stress release. I like everything from throwing axes to just working out with weights really hard. I garden. I grow probably most of our food, except for the meat. I have the chickens and I grow all our veggies.
That's cool.
I have a fruit orchard too.
You do? Really?
Mm-hmm.
What's in the fruit orchard? What kinds of things?
I just picked up avocados and navel oranges.
Very
I have
nice.
blood oranges and grapefruits and several kinds of lemons and limes, and a couple of kinds of oranges.
It sounds like paradise. You sound like, with all the hard work and everything, because nothing comes easy, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of this, that, and the other, everything well earned. It sounds like you're in a content, sweet spot in this time of life right now. It sounds like you're surrounded by love and things you love and people and the dog and just everything. It sounds like you're in a bit of a sweet spot.
I am. I really am. I'm very content and just trying to be useful.
And that's something that you've always done, which I think is amazing. Just want to remind people too, she was in the new Mike Hammer, Ford, The Man and the Machine, Hoover versus the Kennedys, The Second Civil War, The Dirty Dozen, The Fatal Mission. She mentioned Rodney Dangerfield too, opening night at Rodney's place, Flair, P.S. I Love You, Swamp Thing, the series, Point Man. As I mentioned, you just turn on TV or what have you, and she has been in so many incredible things and has graced us with her wit and wisdom. Do you plan to write more? Are there more books in the offing for you, Heather?
There's actually, I'm working on 2 pilots right now, television series pilots, and there's definitely going to be more books.
That's very, very cool. I think that's awesome. I hope that works out for you. You actually wrote a screenplay, and that was way back, and you sold it to Touchstone Pictures. And
tons of stuff, and I sell it. I sell tons of stuff. I don't know which bio you have. Yeah. It's extraordinary. If people just know you from the on-camera work, your behind the scenes work is prolific, especially when it comes to writing. What are some other things you would like to do in the future? Some things that are on that Heather bucket list? I think I'd be really good at teaching small space sustainable food gardening. I think there are too many food deserts in America. I think I'd be kind of good at that. I can do that. Other than that, I try to raise funds for. I'm pretty well seasoned. If you read Trophy Wives, I'm pretty good at raising funds.
You are very good, yeah.
That was the point of my book. I said, over 70%, usually 80 and higher percent of all donated monies come from those trophy wives, not from, guys saying, oh, you gave to mine, I'll give to yours. It's usually the trophy wives. So that's why I thought it was interesting, and how they, accrue their identities. But no, there's always something that's going to pique my interest.
Yes. We've had the hilarious and wonderful Rita on our show, another legendary figure in television, stage, and film. And she talks not only about the things that she's been doing and the things that she's done, but also her involvement with the Thespians. Have you ever been involved with the Thespians at all?
Yeah, somehow I it's very familiar to me. Yeah.
She's amazing.
I know I donated to them.
I am sure you have. When you take a look at everything, what are some of those continued blessings and joys in your life, Heather, that continue to lift and inspire you day to day? There's so many things going on in our world that are topsy-turvy, but when you look at your body of work, all the art you've created and continue to create, and everything you have around you, what are some of those continued blessings and joys in your life?
Well, I'm very lucky that I've been able to meet amazing people through my husband or through my work. And I think that's what keeps me going. There are all these people that are doing amazing things. I'm curious how they came to it. And I think that if you stop creating, the creative mind is always needs to be fed with a million different ingredients. So I'm curious. I know I'll be going out with wolf biologists when I get back to a place. I have a place in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and I'll be going out in the park. The wolves were decimated by overhunting in the tri-state area, and I want to see how the Yellowstone pack is doing. I've gone out with a bear biologist before to watch the bears, and the wolf biologist before, but I want to see an update on that. I do work to try and change people's attitudes towards predators that are necessary in the food chain to keep the world balanced. I've been working with kids in different capacities. My daughter has a wonderful charity called Nest, and they provide kids in conflict situations with preschools so they can still be children.
That's wonderful.
And they were very active during the fire. They've done amazing stuff in Altadena, and they are there at the border on the Mexico side. They're in Africa and a couple of war zones, but she's doing amazing stuff. Work with her, work with my husband's on the board of Conservation International, do stuff with them. So basically wherever I can be useful.
It sounds to me like you would also be a wonderful, and maybe you've delved into this area as well. I've worked with a lot of people through my years on PBS. I could see you as a documentary filmmaker too. Really,
I really enjoyed doing that. I made one in film school, but I haven't done it since. So I'd have to study the best way to be one. But I would
process. With all of these amazing interests that you have, like you mentioned, the gardening and the wolves and just nature, I could see you out there, narrating it, producing it. I could see you doing that, Heather.
Maybe. You never know.
Any producers out there listening?
I never know.
You would be amazing at it, and we would definitely support and watch that, Heather. You are truly a delight, and I really appreciate the generosity of time, your wit and wisdom, your authenticity, and I thank you for the continued hours of entertainment and joy you've brought all of us through everything that you've done, which you've done because you've wanted to be useful, and you are, and you've wanted to touch us in the ways that you have. And really a delight chatting with you, my friend. A pleasure. And I hope you'll come back and see us.
Thank you. I would love to come back.
You're amazing.
When I got something to crow about.
To share. I was going to say, is there anything you're excited about that's coming up?
Not that I can talk about, but yeah.
So that's a stay tuned, everybody.
Excited for the future.
That's right. You're the best, really a delight. I hope you enjoyed the time with me as much as I absolutely have with you, Heather.
You reminded me of work I forgot all about.
Isn't it amazing when you go back in time, you're like, wow, I did do that, and I did that, and I did that. And we try to, like I was mentioning earlier before we went on, I try to make it free-flowing, conversational, not like an interview, but more like a conversation. And
I like that.
Well, the pleasure is mine, and we're going to keep the porch light on for you, my friend. You're welcome back anytime, and thanks again for being so generous with your time, and continued blessings to you and the family.
Blessings to you too.
Thank you, Heather. We'll chat again soon. You be well.
I will.
Take care now.
Okay.
Incomparable Heather Thomas, the award-winning acclaimed television and film actress, as well as writer, author, activist, and so much more, and a real passionate person about life. And boy, how cool it was to chat with her and celebrate, and also hear about some of the things that she loves to support. She's a very community-minded person. She's been doing this work for a long time. And we were really blessed to have her with us here. And, you know, we took a look at some really cool shots of then and now. And again, if you do go back and you watch some of the channels, this was actually something recent too. Didn't talk about it, but you can see this. This is the Ghost Trap. She was in this recently. This was another wonderful production. But again, you know, when you think about some of these folks who you have had an opportunity to follow and watch and enjoy, who have entertained you on television, film, stage, whatever it may be, it is wonderful to have an opportunity to learn that they're really nice people that have a big heart, that care. You know, there was a theme to our conversation. She kept saying, I just want to be useful. And that's a beautiful thing, right? If you just know her from her work on television and film and in magazines and so much more, and you've been a big fan of hers over the years, which many millions have been and continue to be, and you know her just from her work, working with all these stars and everybody else, now hopefully you know a little bit about the person behind all of that, everything you've seen over the years, and that she really is a gracious, real straight shooter, an authentic person with a big heart. And she likes to have fun. And I love that. She's very witty. She's very quick. And if you notice, very humble too. She reminds me of other people I've had an opportunity to chat with, which I've mentioned, like Florence Henderson and the wonderful Carol Burnett. No airs about them, amazing talents, but no airs about them. Very affable, caring, and that's Heather. There's the book too. I encourage you to check out the book. You can find it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and where books are sold. We thank Heather Thomas for stopping by the Jim Masters Show, Entertainment Lifestyle Celebrity Talk Show series. And we thank you for joining us as well. Come see us again if you enjoyed this episode over on the YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of celebrity friends and special guests who've stopped by our show. Give this episode a thumbs up, like, and click the notification bell so you get our notifications about episodes. Share this on your social media and drop a comment below as well. Right down there, what did you enjoy about this episode and my conversation with the acclaimed television and film actress, writer, and activist, the one and only Heather Thomas. Jim Masters here, thanking you for your time this time. Till next time, come see us again. We'll leave the porch light on for you here at Levity Hall, as we call it. And don't forget to love one another. Take care of one another. And don't forget to do the very same for yourself. Be well. Take care. Thanks for joining us. And cheers.